Hello, everybody. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is where you're tuning in from. And welcome to day 3 of this year's Island Finance Forum. It's wonderful to have you all here. Just a bit of housekeeping to start off with. Before we start the session, we have a poll that has been launched. We kind of want to get to know and have an idea of where you're from and what sector you're in. So just take a couple of minutes to answer the poll, or a few seconds rather, to answer the poll, and then we'll show you the results shortly. So my name is Stacey Alvarez de la Campa. I'm the content manager and community manager here at Island Innovation. And for those of you who may be tuning in for the first time, or Island Finance Forum is one of our flagship events. And we bring together the charisma and the intellectual prowess of senior financiers, development partners, and policymakers and regulators to come together to kind of brainstorm and discuss sustainable and inclusive solutions to some of the issues that are quite specific to island territories and island communities. So this is a chance to kind of interact with everybody, and it's a great opportunity to discuss and explore things that can help us move together collectively and kind of embrace the greater good. And it's not too late to register. Those of you who might not have registered, we will place a registration link in the chat for you. So please take the time to register and you'll receive some updates and you can kind of get a chance to know what's happening the rest of this week. So at this point, please feel free, as I said, if you haven't answered the poll already, you can just put your answers in and we'll launch the results shortly. Right, so we can see that the vast majority of us, well, most of us are connecting from the Caribbean region where I'm based. I'm based in Barbados, so that's great to see that representation, about 42% of us. And that's followed by 25% from North America, and then close to that 21% are joining us from Europe. And we have also some representation from the African region. So it's great to see that you're all here. I'd like to welcome all of you. And just to give you a little background about our conversation today, it kind of centers around right now the media, and it centers around how can local media survive in small countries in an age of big tech. Because we see that the vast majority of the time, we're very much aware of the larger media houses and we're very much aware of the presence that they have. And it can be difficult for smaller entities to compete. And this brings us to the universal issue of scale. And this is a topic that has been well discussed in the Island Finance Forum and is usually a challenge with smaller communities like some of the islands. So against this kind of backdrop, it can be difficult for small publications to compete. We also have smaller markets to cater to here in this region or in some island communities. So joining us to explore this issue, we have two speakers. We have Mark Corrigan, the General Manager of the Trend Media Group. He's here with us. Welcome so much, Mark. And then we have Eileen Ruddy joining us as well. She is the Chief Business Officer. So thanks so much to both of you for joining us and for helping us kind of come to some insights regarding this topic. It's great to have you both with us.
Thank you, Stacey. Great to be here. Thanks for having us. Hi, everyone. Hello.
So I'm going to start off with you, Mark. So tell me a little bit about Trend Media. Tell me a little bit about what's going on in the advertising industry from your vantage point.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks. So hi everyone. Mark's my name again. So Eileen and I, as you'll pick up from our accents, we're both from another island, a little bit far away in the island of Ireland. So we're here today to talk to you about what Trend Media are doing to try and help promote and protect the local news industry in the Caribbean. So first of all, Trend Media is the Caribbean's leading digital media specialist. Okay, so we concentrate and we focus on performance marketing, such as direct response solutions, creative solutions, and publishing. And publishing is what we're mainly here to talk to you guys today about. So Trend Media, we own and operate Loop News, which some of you from the Caribbean hopefully will be familiar of. So what's going on in the advertising industry? So the advertising industry is over 300 years old. So the very first ad was put in a Boston newspaper 300 years ago. It was a recruitment ad. Okay. In 1994, the first digital advert went live. So in those last 30 years, we've seen more change than the previous 270 years before that. So there's a lot going on in the advertising industry, and it's all been fueled by digital transformation. So with digital transformation, how companies buy ads online has changed drastically, and that's all down to data and tech. And because of data and tech, we've seen the emergence of these huge, gigantic tech companies who 20 years ago, we couldn't even fathom how big they could become, but they have become these absolute stalwarts of media, and they really do control a lot. So at the moment, what's happening is digital advertising now accounts for about 60% of all advertising budgets. Okay, so for every $100 spent on advertising, on average, $60 goes into some type of digital investment. And with these tech companies, they're hoovering up a lot of that. So that's kind of a top line of what's going on, Stacey, at the moment.
Okay, well, thanks for that. My goodness. So it sounds as if that's something that big tech might indeed have an impact on. So can you tell us a bit about how has big tech impacted this per se, and what does it mean for us here in the Caribbean?
Yeah, for sure. So if you were to take that 60% of total advertising investment going to digital media, of that 60%, on average, 70% goes to big tech, okay? And when we talk about big tech, we're typically speaking about Google and Facebook, and Amazon are fast becoming another player, so are TikTok as well. So what happens here is that out of the 60% of digital advertising, there's only around 30% that local news brands have to compete for. And instead of competing against the likes of Google and Facebook, everyone's competing against themselves. And what we've seen in other markets that are a little bit further down the road with this is that it tends to be a bit of a race to the bottom. So what would happen is news companies, media companies will end up dropping rates to try and attract advertising investment. And what happens then is that the type of quality content that we all consume starts to go down as well. And we've seen this happen a lot over the last particular 5-6 years. So instead of media companies trying to look to compete against the duopoly of Google and Facebook, they're competing against themselves. And as I said, that is a bit of a race to the bottom. In the Caribbean, though, it's a little bit more stark. Okay, so if you're to take the Ireland, where Eileen and I are from, the likes of Google and Facebook and TikTok have their European HQs there. Okay, so they're providing hundreds of jobs and they're investing back into the local communities. And there's the knock-on economy of employing thousands of people in a country like Ireland. However, in the Caribbean, there's no physical presence of Google, Facebook, Amazon, or any of these big tech companies. So that means there's no jobs. And what it also means is there's no taxes being paid. So there's nothing being invested back in to the likes of the Caribbean. So if we're saying that out of all digital advertising spend, 70% goes to big tech, that means 70% of all advertising investment is leaving this region and it's going back to San Francisco, essentially. Okay, so that's going to be detrimental to the future of local Caribbean news brands, because what will happen is they'll compete with each other and we'll all start getting in a race to the bottom. So now it's time for Caribbean publishers, so news brands, media brands, and data owners to try and collaborate. And that's why we're forming the Caribbean Publisher Alliance. It's never been done before in this region. It has been done before in other areas, and we can talk about that a little bit later on. But it's a brand new initiative, and we're delighted to talk to you guys about that today.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, it sounds as if, yes, we need to avoid that kind of drain of resources. And it sounds fantastic that the idea of building resilience and building some stability through any kind of alliance and collaboration is absolutely perfect and something that we would need in this region. So can you tell us a bit more then about the Caribbean Publisher Alliance? What exactly is that?
For sure. So we're excited to say we're at the pilot stage now. So the founding partners of this Caribbean Publisher Alliance at the moment are ourselves, Loop News, we have the Gleaner, we have the Trinidad Express, and we have the Guardian. Okay, so we've come together to form this strategic alliance. Now, what this alliance means is, and we're going to kind of talk through a bit more, and I know Eileen's going to feed in a little bit more, but this is essentially going to act as an alternative for companies in this region, okay, to invest their advertising budget with premium news brands at scale. Okay, because in any smaller markets, island economies, or smaller countries, scale is the big thing. So what we're looking to do is we're looking to come together to create scale and safety and standards in this region. What we've also done, and what I'm very excited about, I'd be a little bit of a data nerd, is that we partnered with 2 cutting edge tech platforms themselves. They're not big tech. When I say that they're not media owners, they're basically ad tech companies who build platforms and infrastructures that the likes of Loop News, ourselves, can funnel advertising. So we partner with Media Rhythmics and Smart Ad Server. And essentially what they're going to do is allow us to utilize all our own first-party data. Okay, so first-party data is becoming a very, very sought-after currency in this day and age. A lot of people on listening to this, they might be aware of what third-party cookies are. Essentially, what third-party cookies are is when you go to Google something. Let's say you go to Google flights from Jamaica to Trinidad, and next thing, for the next 3 weeks, you get hounded by ads for flights to Trinidad from lots of different airlines and lots of different aggregators. That's essentially Google using third-party data, okay? And they use that through a piece of tech called cookies. Google have come out and saying that third-party cookies are going to become a thing of the past. They're going to block them. What that means is if you're an advertiser, let's say you're a car manufacturer, you're Toyota, and you want to reach a certain type of person online who might be suitable to buy your type of car. So it might be you want to reach a young family who might want to buy a big 7-seater car for their young family, for their kids. You will no longer be able to use third-party cookies to try and retarget these people as they move around the web. So what's going to have to happen is you're going to have to partner with media owners who will allow safe and transparent access to first-party data. So that's what this whole alliance is going to be. So that's what our tech partners, Media Ritmix and Smart, they will allow us to do that. So essentially, it's known as a data management platform, so DMP. So I won't go into too much more boring detail on that, but that's kind of the top line of what this publisher alliance is.
That's great. So that's great to know the what, and I think that you explained it very well. So let's hear a little bit about the why. What's driving you? What's the driving force behind spearheading this initiative?
Yeah, so the number one reason we are looking to do this is to promote and protect. Okay, and what I mean by that is to promote and protect the Caribbean news media industry. Okay, so I alluded to the fact that up to 70% of digital advertising budgets are going to be sucked out of this region, and that money's gone. It's not being reinvested. Technically speaking, that those advertising revenues that will be generated are gone. So what we're looking to do is to promote and protect by having cooperation between leading news and media brands, to try and put a bit of focus on this industry. So that's one reason. The next one are all about results and transparency. So when I talk about transparency, when a business owner, let's say an MD of a company or a marketing manager, goes to invest advertising spend in the likes of Google and Facebook or Amazon or any of these big tech companies, there's a lack of transparency of how much bang for my buck is going towards actual media, and what percentage of every dollar that I'm spending in advertising is going on lots of layers of tech fees and tech fees and tech fees. And there's no transparency there. What we are aiming to do, what we've committed to do with this Caribbean Publisher Alliance, is to provide complete transparency. So for every $100 you might spend on advertising on the Caribbean Publisher Alliance, we can tell you exactly that you will get around 80% of that. So $80 of that $100 will go directly towards media and data to make sure that you're getting more bang for your buck. So it's going to drive it more, your investment further and further. With that comes results, okay? So if you can imagine, out of every $100 you spend in advertising, if you can get up to $80 of that going directly towards first-party data-led media, okay, you're going to get better results. And we know that. We've already trialed this. We've trialed it looking at C-suite business profile users. So we had an advertiser who want to attract a certain type of person who would be what we call a C-suite. So anyone from a CEO, chief marketing officer, chief technology officer, whatever it might be. And we're able to demonstrate that the cost per lead, okay, so the cost for every single lead that this company generated came up in the top 3 of their entire marketing strategy. And this was just on a trial. So we know it works. We've connected the pipes using our data partners. The other reason why we're doing this, why we're spearheading this, is also standards in the digital advertising industry in this space. If you look at other markets, Canada, the US, Australia, Ireland, Europe, there's lots of official bodies like frameworks such as the IAB, which is the Interactive Advertising Bureau. And with that, they mandate a certain level of standards that every website needs to adhere to be able to come on board. Okay, so we've all been on websites before where 10 different ads pop up and it's a terrible user experience, and all that's going to do is encourage someone to download an ad blocker. And that, when I mentioned the race at the bottom earlier on, if we continue to do that, that is a sprint to the bottom. Okay, so what we want to do is with this alliance is, if you want to come on board as a publisher or a media owner, you need to introduce a certain level of standard. It's not just the amount of ads that pop up. Okay, so we want to make sure that the content comes first, and that the ad slots or everything is premium, and that way the advertisers are happy to pay premium prices for that. But what we also want to introduce is that websites are secure. So what we mean by that is, if you've ever gone onto a website and your browser might flash up saying this website's not secure, are you sure you want to proceed? There's a lot of mixed levels of ability in this region. So we want to make sure there's a standard here that we know when anyone comes onto any of our sites, they're going to have a minimum standard of quality as well. So to recap there, why are we doing this? It's to promote and protect the industry. It's to drive transparency and drive results. And it's also to increase standards in the whole digital media ecosystem in the Caribbean.
That's wonderful. It sounds like it's a great kind of holistic set of reasoning, and it's garnering some very positive responses in our chat. I can see someone, Mali, Pamina, saying that this sounds like, it sounds like I found my platform to advocate climate change adaptation through blogs, articles, and that, there's generally an excited feeling to start marketing products. So I think that we're having a very, very positive response.
That's a great example where someone with an initiative could come to us, and we as an alliance, all the media owners in it could put our heads together, go, how can we best activate this message? And there's a very clear communication objective there around climate change, and coming together to work together, we can help promote that. So we're not just all saying the same thing. Everyone can do a different service, a different area around that communication objective. So that's great, yeah, for sure.
Fantastic, that's great. So, okay, thanks so much for that, Mark. I'm going to direct my next question to Eileen. And can you kind of give us a little bit more detail then, because Mark touched on it a bit, but what exactly does this mean for advertisers? If you could let us know, give us some insight into that.
No problem, thank you, Stacey. I think Mark has done a great job in terms of talking about what the Caribbean Publisher Alliance is. So kind of just to get a recap on what does it mean for advertisers and what the benefit is. So firstly, it provides a brand safe environment. Sorry, there's a storm behind me here today, so I'm hoping everyone is hearing me loud and clear from Trinidad. So it provides a brand safe environment for advertisers to invest their budgets, so that they know that their ads are appearing against premium quality content. It also can remove the fact of your ads appearing against fake news or unsavory content, which we know actually happens quite regularly, and I've seen that myself. I think also secondly, the Alliance allows the creation of audience segments. So, so using first-party data, for example, if a brand wants to target persons who may be interested in personal finance, we can actually then create bespoke audience segments so that advertisers can promote their brand against that segment. So it avoids any wastage of the advertising dollars. And I think another huge benefit to advertisers is the ability to buy advertising across a number of premium publishers. So for example, a one-stop shop. I work personally in one of the biggest publisher companies in Ireland, so I know something quite different what it is for advertisers to be able to buy across a multitude of different websites. So we're through the Caribbean Alliance, we're going to enable advertisers through us to buy across a multitude of those premium sites, because it can be very time consuming. It can be very, I think what happens mostly too is the budget, because it is time consuming, the budgets, it's easier to direct those budgets to Facebook and Google, and then therefore losing money to the big tech giants that Mark spoke about earlier on. And I think that lastly, Mark touched on this, but again, also it provides more transparency so that advertisers can actually see, where their actual budget is being spent, how their campaigns are performed. And if you look at the Gravity Alliance, which is another alliance in the UK, if you go onto their website, you can see, what their daily, weekly, monthly reach is. So we can actually do similar. We have all the reach from across all the publishers across the region. We can compete them really, really heavily against those big tech giants for that advertising dollar. So I think that's kind of maybe the key benefit, Stacey, to the advertisers.
Great, thanks so much for going through that. I'll just recap that a little bit. Some people were having an issue with hearing. So I could see that you did mention that there's the provision of a safe environment for advertisers to invest their budget. Well, that's one of the key benefits towards advertisers. And creating specific audiences using the first-party data is also very, very crucial. So the idea that this is something that will make the process more efficient, okay, and make it much more user-friendly, as it were. So thanks so much. And again, lots of positive comments coming through in the chat. So that's fantastic. We'll do a little question and answer towards the end. So
thank you. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So I'm going back to Mark now. So what about other publishers? What about the other publishers? What can you say about that?
Yeah, for sure. So we are not limiting ourselves to the founding members. So just to recap there, we've got Loop News, we've got The Gleaner, the Trinidad Express, and The Guardian. Okay, so all very big players in this region, but we are not limiting it to that at all. So we essentially, the onboarding process is extremely simple and it's very straightforward. And it's also very important to note that this does not affect any existing advertising revenue streams. So for any advertiser that was to come on, for any media owner that was to come on board the Publisher Alliance, we would demonstrate to them how this is incremental revenue, okay? Everything here is incremental revenue. But essentially, we are looking to attract a wide variety of publishers to join us. And at the end of this chat, I'm going to put up the contact details for Eileen, who's managing publisher onboarding. So I did mention earlier on standards. The one thing I would say is that we would have to vet the type of site it is. We're looking for premium sites. It doesn't necessarily have to be a news website. It could be a lifestyle, sports, entertainment website, but there's certain minimum criteria we would take on board. And then we would work with those publishers to help get them up to speed with lots of different integration and other areas there as well. This is the first iteration of what we see this alliance being. But when you start to blue sky think this, there are huge opportunities around other types of media that fit into the digital sphere. So digital audio is becoming huge, for example. So you see traditional radio stations are now dabbling in digital audio, and Spotify is another big tech company that have come into this region recently as well. So it's very much up to us to try and attract lots of different types of media. And my sense is over the next couple of years, the word digital media will actually become defunct and all media will serve a digital purpose. And you can see that in out-of-home advertising is now done, it can be done in a digital manner as well. So instead of having guys drive around their vans to put up the plaster ads, you can see in some markets, and even here as well, there's digital screens that it's all done from someone's computer. So digital transformation is going to continue to happen. Nearly every single newspaper has a digital footprint as well. So to summarize, we will be attracting lots of different types of publishers. The main thing is that the more we have, the more empowered we can be to work with advertisers and companies to make sure we're driving the industry, we're promoting and protecting, we're driving transparency, results, and value, and bang for your buck. As I hope that saying resonates over here. It's definitely an Irish saying anyway.
Good. Yes, we are familiar with it. Thanks so much for that. So that's fantastic. And I can actually see that answer you gave really connects well with a comment we have in the chat when someone was questioning, how are we going to bring the diaspora on board? Because we know that anything digital is, it has no boundaries, it's got no borders. So it sounds like
exactly. I saw that comment. It was a great question. So I mentioned we built a data management platform using our two tech partners. Okay, so our two tech partners help take all the first party data that exists with all the media owners, and then we help to attract advertisers as well. And then we can, using the data management platform, we can reach people who are spread out all over the world, but who are diaspora of the Caribbean for sure. It's also very important to note that the two tech partners that we've onboarded are both based in Europe. And as most people here will know, in Europe, GDPR came in. Okay, so that's all about data legislation. So what we've done here in Trend Media and Loop is we've just assumed that GDPR exists here. Okay, so everything we did everything we've done to build this framework and onboarding is all GDPR compliant. So it's only a matter of time until there's proper legislation around data, and we welcome that. It's only a matter of time that exists in the Caribbean, and it's already starting to exist in certain pockets of the area. But I hope there'll be a region wide, and this alliance is going to be compliant with that, and we'll actually be advocates of that as well. So yeah, for sure. But with the Diaspora, there's huge opportunities there around digital to use first-party data to communicate to Diaspora wherever they might be.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's wonderful, and I think it's great to see that there'll be a corresponding evolution in terms of, the legislative frameworks that can evolve in this region to match the presence of something like the Caribbean Publishers Alliance. So that's absolutely wonderful. So is this something has this been done before then? This is
it has. It's completely unique to this region. However, Eileen would have mentioned the Gravity Alliance. So if you look at the UK, if you look at France, Australia, the States have done it to a certain degree, but it's mainly the UK, France, Australia that have had great success stories. Another alliance that exists is called the Ozone Alliance. Okay. And they've recently published, if you were to Google it, anyone to look it up, they've recently published reports that they're experiencing huge growth, and they've got massive growth plans to try and evolve their alliance as well. Anyone who's interested in media would have seen over the last 2 years in Australia a very, very special thing happened where Google came out and said, okay, publishers of Australia, we see you and we hear you, and we are going to make sure that we're paying for any content that we take. So that's the promised land. It's just that we get respect and from both our readers, our consumers, and our advertising partners, and that we're able to give back as well. There's not many regions in the world that are anyway similar to the Caribbean, so it's really important that we do promote and protect the news industry here, because if you look at news websites that exist here and media companies that exist here, you just can't compare them to any other market. I mean, you can look at the USA and you can look at Canada, and there's a lot of similarities. You can look at Australia and you can look at New Zealand, even with UK and Ireland. There's some similarities, but there's nowhere else in the world that compares to what the very unique region that is the Caribbean. So it's really, really important that we get behind this and that we promote all these Caribbean news publishers and companies.
Well, definitely. And I think another, important aspect of it is it provides that sense of empowering ourselves through our own narrative and having power over that and that kind of filter. So that's something that I think is very important for us as a region. So, we really do applaud the initiative, definitely. Before we get to any Q&A, so Eileen, we're going to turn back to you and just ask, so if you can summarize a little bit for us, like, why is this important for both advertisers and news publishers in the context of our discussion?
No problem, Stacey. You're hearing me okay? Yes, right, okay. Well, there's a new number of different reasons why this is important for both advertisers and publishers. But I think, firstly, with the death of the third-party cookie, advertisers now are getting themselves ready and more organized in terms of how they're now going to track and profile without having access to third-party cookies. So publishers can create audiences at scale and ultimately win more advertising revenue. Secondly, then I think, this provides incremental revenues for publishers. So this is all about incremental revenue. So the Alliance will sell on behalf of all of the publishers and not just one publisher. So, we'll be able to actually build out audiences across a multitude of publishers across the region, and it enables publishers to really take back and take more control on how their inventory is sold and prevent that data from spreading out into the open web and basically, losing dollars from the Caribbean to North America, similar to what Mark just spoke about. Also, I think the Alliance can provide global access through its tech partners. Mark mentioned we were working with 2 tech partners, Smart and Media Rhythmics. And I think this is particularly appealing to large international brands. If you look at the like of Scotiabank, they have a centralized ad buying platform in Canada. So, this is now something that we have in the Caribbean, a centralized ad platform for advertisers and publishers and advertising agencies. Also, then I think with the amount of data regulations that are going to ultimately come into this region, similar to what's happening in the States and Europe, we can address those regulations as an alliance rather than an individual publisher having to, go out there, because that can be a very, very tricky one to navigate through. And then there's also potential then for us to, as an alliance, to lobby government on the back of that. I think that's some of the key benefits to both the advertisers and the publishers.
That's fantastic. So, in light of all that, how would advertisers and publishers get in touch? How would we reach you?
Well, they can contact me directly. I think Mark is going to put a slide up on the screen right now. So I'm at Eileen@trend.media. And I'd love to hear from anybody, just to let us know if you're interested in joining, or indeed if you have any questions for myself and Mark.
So this slide just gives a snapshot of the strategic partners at this stage. Again, just one more time: Loop, The Guardian, The Gleaner, and the Trinidad Express, and then our two our ad tech platforms, MediaRhythmics and Smart, who help actually funnel all this. They do all the hard work. We just do all the fun stuff.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks so much for that presentation. I think you really you've created that buzz. You've created kind of that interest and that awareness in what the possibilities and the potential for what you're saying, and the resonance that this is going to have throughout those who've been attending. So I really do appreciate your time today. And we're going to go now to our question and answer segment. And so I have a question. The first question I look at from Rafaela Madeiros, who says, a recent financial report from Google shows a decrease in revenues from ads, and similar data has been reported from Meta and Facebook. How could small companies in islands capitalize on that?
Yeah, I might jump at that one. It's a great question, and I think it's to me, it kind of summarizes everything we kind of said here. So there's two ways of looking at this. One is scale. So small companies, as I mentioned, especially in regions like this, and we're very used to this from Ireland, is a very small economy as well in the grand scheme of things. It's all about scale. So how can small companies provide advertisers, blue chip advertisers who are used to spending a lot of money with Google and Facebook, who are now starting to reconsider things? How can they become attractive to those big budgets? One of the main reasons why we're doing this, again, remember, is all about trying to help the small companies. It's like a 2 + 2 = 5 strategy, nearly, in a way, to attract advertising budget at scale. Okay, and on the back of that, what are you going to do for the advertiser? So if the advertisers are moving away from Google or Meta and Facebook, what are you going to do to make them want to spend with you in addition to scale? And I think that's where full integration. Okay, and I'll explain what I mean by that is, so you can go to an advertiser and you can say, okay, yes, we're not as big collectively as Google might have had. However, taking Loop News, for example, we can fully integrate a brand or an advertiser against our site and against our audience and our community. And what I mean by that is, yes, it's straight up digital advertising, so banner ads that we've all seen, but there's also a much deeper level of integration as well, with the likes of branded content, digital audio solutions as well, activations, whether it be virtual or physical, so mobilizing your audience in local regions as well. And then the main thing, again, is just what do small companies have, small media companies have that Google and Facebook don't have, is the first party data. So if you are a small financial news website, okay, let's say you focus purely on financial news and you're based in the Caribbean, you have unbelievably rich data at your disposal. That is your data, you own it. It's your users' data that you own. So it's how can you work in a very safe and transparent way? Again, remembering all the data legislation that exists and all the risks of having data breaches. So that's why it's important to partner with ad tech companies like Smart or MediaRhythmics. How can you partner with them to monetize and mobilize your first party data? So that's what I'd look at when you're trying to compete against the big boys, as we'd say, or trying to capitalize on their dips in ad spend. So I hope that's answered the question.
Yeah, I think that was a very thorough answer. Thank you so much for that. So we have another question of someone asking more about kind of the procedures behind it all, and that is, will SMEs, small medium enterprise businesses, get to sign MOUs, memorandum of understanding, with you? So that's
Yeah.
someone who definitely wants to make a start.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, it's for Eileen and I at the moment, when we're at this pilot stage, there's two conversations we're having. One is with potential publishers and media owners to come on board to form the alliance. Okay, and as I mentioned, we're willing to talk to everyone and anyone in this region once we meet certain criteria, and the onboarding process is very straightforward, and it's all incremental. There's no risk of losing out on your day-to-day revenue streams. The other conversation we're having then is with advertisers and companies and SMEs. So yes, we are open to sign MOUs with everyone and anyone. And I mean, all I will say at this stage is, while we're piloting, it's always good to pilot something at the start, because we'll be able to look at onboarding advertising partners in the SME space with the view to try and apply as much value as we can to them right now. So if I think that's what that question was in relation to, how can SMEs come on board as an advertising partner? Very straightforward, and we will sit with them and talk with them and find, what are your marketing and communicative objectives? Who do you want to speak to? Who's your target audience? We will then go away working with Media Rhythmics and Smart and come back with a data-led solution across the alliance, and show you how we can do it, and we'll be able to demonstrate the bang for your buck, as I said as well.
Yeah, that's great. And, I really appreciate that answer. I'm sure our audience does, because that also gives some insight into exactly how can someone craft their introductory paper that they need to put together, or how they need to create the proposal before approaching you. So really appreciate that. Thank you. So we have another question from Patrice, who's asking, is the Bermuda Broadcasting Company part of the Trend Media Network?
No. So Trend Media, we own and operate Loop. And then in partnership with the other brands, you can see here, The Guardian, Daily Express, and The Gleaner, we're forming this alliance. They'll be a standalone media company. We have not spoken to them yet, but we would like to speak to them with regards if they were looking to come on board in some capacity. But no, so Trend Media we're Loop News, we're also Sportsmax as well, and the BIP app also.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. So we have a question from the Bahamas. Rain is asking, would you advise more media companies to follow the kind of blueprint features of more big tech? Is that something that people should aim towards?
Sorry, could you just repeat that question one more time? Sorry.
Would you advise more media companies to follow the blueprint features of more big tech?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it depends on fundamentally who are you serving. As a media company, you've got two customers. You've got your users, your readers, your consumers, who either read your magazine or listen to your radio station or read your web content, and then you've got your advertising partners. So I think you don't attract advertising partners unless you're servicing your consumers. Okay, so your audience are your biggest customer. I think it would depend on fundamentally what does your company do, what does your media company do, and looking at that, then we're like, okay, what space do I fit in? So, if you're looking to more unique, bespoke, niche audience segments, I would not probably look at that. I would say stick to your own and look at other similar publishers like yourself, as opposed to go down the bigger Google, Facebook route.
That's excellent. Yeah. So in other words, the idea that, it's not necessarily a one-size-fits-all approach. You have to be very aware of your community and who you're serving, and who your audience is. I would imagine.
Yeah, I think so, because especially in this day and age, we've seen this happen a lot over the last 5 years. People, especially people in the digital space, are a lot more. That loyalty is probably not as big a thing. If you can do it right, loyalty is a huge thing. But I mean, there would have been a day when we all would have listened to the same one or two radio stations or watched the same one or two TV channels. Yeah. But now what's happening in the world, and everything's going lots of different directions. People are, especially in the digital space, they're a bit more cautious of who are they going to commit their precious time to. And what I mean by that is, what media owners are they going to spend quality time with? You look at some younger people are happy to scroll on TikTok for hours and hours and hours, and that's fine. That's what suits them. But then some people refuse to go on social media because it's bad for their mental health, and they want to get there. They want to find out what's going on in the world, back looking at more traditional digital news brands like the ones we have here as well. So it's not a one size fits all, and sometimes I wish it was, because it would make life a lot easier, but it's not.
Yeah, exactly. And I think too, it does show there is a very discerning consumer out there who, it's not just a matter of, you say, of necessarily distracting yourself through social media. You have something definite in mind that you want to find, or something that you're looking for. And I think that's something.
Yeah, absolutely. And even companies who use social media to advertise and promote their brand, if they're not hitting other massive, way more important KPIs, such as sustainability and being as green as possible, it doesn't matter if they've the best TikTok ad campaign out there, because people nowadays are going to see through all that and go, no, fundamentally, you guys are not doing what you need to be doing this day and age. So we don't care about your amazing digital media footprint. It's what are you actually fundamentally doing as well. So you can spend a lot of time and money investing in how to be the best on Facebook, best on Instagram, and best on TikTok, and then it just blows up in your face because fundamentally you don't have your ducks in a row in your actual day-to-day business.
Yeah, exactly. And that actually is very relevant to our final question that I see here in the Q&A, and this is regarding rural communities and more isolated communities that we do have in our region in the Caribbean. So how accurate are the online trends, for example, Google Trends and various ad interests for these kind of communities, and what other trend websites?
They're not great at the moment. So a lot of people ask us, what is the exact advertising market or the exact news market in either both the whole Caribbean or in some of the smaller island countries as well? And unfortunately, the answer is there's no centralized body of knowledge for that right now. Where earlier on I alluded to the fact that other markets have established bodies who would carry out lots of research, independent research. So again, going back to the island of Ireland, where Eileen and I are from, you can very quickly find out the size of the digital media audience, okay? Because there's all that research done. As part of this Caribbean Publisher Alliance, we want to try and bring that in as well. So again, if you imagine, we've got our 4 partners here at the moment, Loop, the Gleaner, the Guardian, and the Journal Express. Let's say we tenfold that with lots more media companies, then we can start to come together for the greater good to go, okay, this is the size of the digital media economy in this area. This is the size of the digital media economy in Antigua. This is how big it is in Trinidad, etc., etc. And then we can start to actually have more informed strategies around how smaller rural media owners can actually, they know the size of the market they're now playing in, so they can actually run their business that way, knowing what's there.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I think you really have made an impact on our audience, those of you who attended. I have a very interesting comment in the chat here. This is again from Mali, who's saying that this will transform marketing for businesses in the smaller island developing states, and that this will really play a crucial role in sustainability and creating a sustainable community and contributing to that. So
thank you. Yeah, but that's why, again, it's so important. And I mentioned there's nowhere else in the world that like this part of the world. So it's really important that media owners work as hard as we can to make sure we're still here in 10 years' time and beyond. And it's also really important that consumers of media recognize that, and even more important, that advertisers recognize that as well and see the value of investing in these types of companies.
Well, thanks again so much to Mark and Eileen. If there are no more questions, but anyone can always get in touch with us here at Island Innovation, or more importantly, get in touch with Eileen and Mark at the contact details they've shared on the side. And definitely keep in touch, and let's see how we can help create this dream together, because I think it's something that's really going to be a game changer for us in the region. So thanks very much for your time today, Mark and Eileen. It was really wonderful to hear from both of you.
Thank you, Stacey, and thank you everyone for taking the time. I know everyone's very busy, and it's lunchtime in a lot of places, so I appreciate that.
So thanks so much, everyone. Okay, bye.